Hi everyone, this is Miss Riley. If you found your way to this video, nicely done. In front of you, you should have your Wonders Reading and Writing Workshop. That is your Small Wonders textbook. And you should be open to page 280. We are looking at Power from Nature. It's an expository text. Now we talked about this with One Well and also with the Delta. Expository texts are actually informational texts. And today our goal is to write a summary about an informational text. We'll break down that objective more in small group, but for now, let's get back to Power from Nature. Before you read, you'll see on the top of your worksheet, it says, preview the text by reading the title and looking at the illustrations. Predict what you think the text will be about. So I'm going to go ahead and look at Power from Nature. Take a look at the title, Power. Okay, Power. And it's coming from nature. So how is that going to happen? I'm going to look at some of my pictures that talk about wind turbines are placed in open areas, cooling towers at a nuclear facility, a natural gas pipeline. Let's see what else we have here. Challenges and problems, solutions for the future. So it seems like I have a problem and a solution. Another word I'm seeing a lot is the word energy, and I'll just highlight a couple times. I see it here just while I'm reading, just while I'm glancing through. I'm seeing that word a lot, and I might not catch all of them, but it's definitely something that I noticed. So I'm also going to assume that this has something to do with energy. Let me go back and check out my organizer. So take the time now to write a prediction. A prediction is always good to start with, I think that, ... Take the next 30 seconds to predict what you think Power from Nature is going to be about. While you're working on that, I'm going to fill mine in. I think that Power from Nature is going to be about energy in nature. And I definitely wanted to include that word, energy. If yours is different than mine, that's totally fine. It's your prediction. It's what you think is going to happen. If you finish this part, give yourself a nice pat on the back. Now we're getting to the while reading. So looking at this organizer, the whole purpose of this being recorded is that right now your teacher, either Miss Riley or Miss Cherikovsky, is working with another group. And they can't exactly show you what you're supposed to do next. So if our objective today is to summarize an informational text, we need to know what's happening in that text. So while you're reading, I want you to think about what each section is about. You are also going to take notes on this organizer. We are going to do this one together, and challenges and problems and solutions to the future will be on your own. Each part of this organizer tells a section of the story, followed asking, what is this section telling you about? You want to make sure that you're writing the main point and key details on each section next to the chart. Personally, I like to bullet my notes because that is how I take notes the best. But I'll walk you through this as I'm reading. So let's go into our text, Power from Nature. I'm going to go through the first two paragraphs first and pause it and kind of check back with my thinking.
most likely supplied the electricity for that lamp by burning coal. Coal, which has to be extracted from deep within the earth, is a natural resource. Natural resources are nature's gifts, the riches that exist in the natural world. They include metals and minerals, along with vegetation, soil, and animals in the wild. They include the things that are a necessity for all life: water, air, and sunlight.
All right, so I'm going to pause myself right there. There's something I noticed, and it was this word, natural resource, natural resources. It's used twice. And I can assume that these are important to whatever my goal is, my main points of the story are going to be. Now, we learned about natural resources, if you remember. We talked about natural resources in the Delta last week. If you look up at the vocabulary on the back board, check out the definition for natural resources. So I'm not quite sure how this is important to renewable and non-renewable energy quite yet. But I know my definition of natural resources from the Delta. So I know they're important things that are already in nature that we can use. So now I'm going to think, well, how are we going to use the natural resources for power? That is the big idea that I'm starting to think I need to understand. But let's find out by continuing to read.
One important use for natural resources is to provide energy. Energy makes things work. It runs our cars, computers, heating and cooling systems, kitchen appliances, telephones, televisions, and industrial machinery. Where do we get all this energy? Natural resources serve as energy sources.
Oh, okay. Now it makes a little more sense, doesn't it? So while we were reading, I highlighted natural resources and energy. Well, why did I do that? I knew natural resources were very important. And we were learning about energy, and that's the title of my section. So I'm now learning that natural resources provide energy. So let me go back over to my note-taking organizer. That's a really important fact. One important, let me make sure my quote is right, use for natural resources. Use for natural resources is to provide energy. Great. That definitely makes more sense about why they keep bringing up natural resources. Now take a minute and just finish copying down that quote so that our note-taking organizers match. Now it's important to note, look at the title, renewable and non-renewable energy. So now I've talked a little bit about energy, but I still haven't learned about this renewable and non-renewable energy. And I'm curious to find out what that is. So let's continue reading on.
Energy sources are divided into two categories. Renewable energy sources, such as sunlight and wind, can be renewed or continuously refilled. They do not run out.
Let me stop there because now I know what renewable energy sources are. And I want to make sure that I know everything about them. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. So renewable resources, energy resources, do not run out. So, and some examples were sunlight and wind. So let me go to my notes and I'm going to write renewable energy does not run out. And I'm going to actually go back over and you'll notice this is in my own words. sunlight and wind were the examples they used. So I'm going to go back in and write sunlight and wind. And I'm just going to write examples there too. Now I'm going to go to my next thing. Hopefully now I'm going to figure out what non-renewable energy is.
Contrast, non-renewable energy sources can be depleted or used up. Coal, natural gas, and oil, also called petroleum, fall into this category. Only a limited amount of these substances, called fossil fuels, exists. Nuclear energy is also non-renewable because it requires uranium. Amounts of uranium are finite or limited. Cooling temperatures.
All right, so now I know what non-renewable resources are, and I highlighted it as I went. Non-renewable energy sources can be depleted or used up. So they're the opposite. My non-renewable energy can run out. And I'm going to do some examples here too so that it's the same. Let's see, some coal, natural gas, and oil. Let's put those examples. Coal, natural gas, and oil. Make sure you note my comma usage. We listed more than 2 things, so I needed to put commas in here. Let's see if there's any other important notes I need to take from Power from Nature's beginning part. We have a little more to read of it.
From the start of human history, people used renewable energy. For example, sails captured wind to move ships, and wood was burned to cook food. Then, about 150 years ago, human energy needs exploded. New machines required more energy. New ways to harness or control energy for use had to be developed. From the 19th century on, most energy has come from non-renewable sources.
Great. So now that I've finished reading, I'm going to go on and say, okay, so why does this matter? Why do these renewable and non-renewable energies matter? What's this section really telling me? So it said from the start of human history, people used renewable energy. They always used renewable energy. Like they used sailboats that captured wind, and wind, we know, is a natural resource, and it's renewable. It doesn't run out. Then, all of a sudden, we need lots of energy. So we needed more. And how could we do that? It says from the 19th century on, most energy has come from non-renewable sources. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that quote because that's really important. So I'm going to say, people used to use renewable energy, but now, well, actually, let me put my quote, but from the 19th century on, most energy has come from non-renewable resources. From the 19th century on, energy has come from non-renewable resources. Because that's really important. Now that I've gone through and taken my notes, what do you think the main idea of this section is? Let's review. One important use for natural resources is to provide energy. Renewable energy does not run out, like sunlight or wind. Non-renewable energy can run out, like coal, natural gas, and oil. People use renewable energy, used to use renewable energy, but from the 19th century on, energy has come from non-renewable resources. So I think overall, the message is that energy comes from nature and can be both renewable and non-renewable. Now go ahead and do the next 2 sections on your own. It seems like we're going to have some problems with this energy sourcing.